Hey guys, I'm Deepthi and in this video we're going to be talking about e.l.f. cosmetics dupes. I know e.l.f. is supposed to be a comparatively affordable brand, but I feel like the price point in India is mentioning otherwise. I feel like it's a little too steep, and some of these products I feel like are not worth the hype. I feel like we can find much affordable products and much better products in the Indian market from Indian brands and like Indian origin brands, and also and some of these products like dupes you already own in your collection, so you don't really have to go ahead and buy the e.l.f. products. So those are the ones I'm going to be talking about in this video. So let's get started. The first one is a very popular one. This one is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. This is a really nice sticky primer. I really like it. Like, it has a tacky finish to it. It is quite sticky, but it makes the foundation adhere on really well. It also has a little bit of glowiness to your foundation. I expected it to make my foundation look a little bit patchy, clumpy, but it's not like that at all. The foundation blends seamlessly on top of this primer. But if you find it to be a little bit too sticky, pricey for your budget, you can of course try the Mask Glow O'Clock primer. I feel like this is very similar. It's not as tacky. It's not that, it doesn't have that sticky finish like the e.l.f. primer does, but it's just as good. It adds that similar kind of glow. It does have that stickiness to it where the makeup adheres on, but I feel like probably it's not as long lasting as the e.l.f. Hydro Grip primer. But I can't really mention about the longevity of my makeup using these two primers because I've never had an issue with makeup not lasting on my face that long. Like, it doesn't fade away from my face because I don't really have oily skin. I don't really sweat on my face. I'm not in a humid climate. So both these primers worked really well for me. And I feel like my makeup lasted really well with both of this. But if you could just avoid this one, and if you already have this, I don't think you have to buy the e.l.f. primer at all because the price point of this is too much. This one is really nice and affordable, so it's a good primer. And if you feel like, most of the times these sticky primers make your foundation look a certain way and you don't really like that, you can of course stick to the Glow O'Clock primer. Okay, when it comes to primers, I have to mention this one. This is a very popular primer. This one is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. This is a decent pore filling primer, but I feel like it's not pore filling enough for me, and I don't even have like very large pores. And I know that this is claimed to be the best pore filling primer, a dupe for the Tatcha Silk Canvas primer. I don't feel like it's very similar. The Tatcha one actually like covers up, blurs out your pores really well. This is pretty good, but I feel like my Lakme Absolute Blur Perfect primer does a much better job in filling up that pores and making it like look seamless. And this does have a little bit of a pink tint to it, but it is not visible on your face when you apply it. And I use this just on places where I need to cover up those pores and fill in those pores, not all over my face. So this is a great alternative, and they also have a mini variant of this one. So if you have this, don't have to buy that. And then let's talk about the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. I like it, but I find it to be a little bit matte for me. I have this one in the shade medium 330W. This is a like pretty full coverage kind of a CC cream. It almost is like your matte foundation. It doesn't have that much of a dewy finish to it. It doesn't have that skin like finish, but it is a very long lasting product, and again would work really well for people with oily skin, and especially for this kind of like climate condition where it's a little humid, it is hot, you tend to sweat a lot on your face. You would really like this CC cream. It pretty much covers everything on your face. It looks really good, but I feel like I prefer my LA Girl Pro BB Cream over this one. I really like the finish of this. This has like that skin-like finish, but it also gives you coverage. It doesn't look too much on your face. It doesn't look matte. It doesn't look powdery. So over this one, I still do really like my LA Girl Pro BB Cream. And I feel like it just looks like skin. And if you want your BB cream to look like skin, I think you can try this out. So this is a CC cream. I know this is a BB cream, but if you wanted something that is pretty similar in terms of coverage and everything, because this is a BB cream that gives you really good coverage, really good finish, really good lasting power, decent shade selection, you can try this out. Of course, you can also try out the Mask BB cream, which I really like. This is a really nice affordable BB cream in the market that looks so good on the skin. I've seen so many people absolutely love this product. I've not seen a lot of people like refrain from using. I've seen a lot of people absolutely love this particular product, and again they have a decent shade option, not the most vast shade range, but for a BB cream, especially in the Indian market, I feel like this is really good, affordable and good BB cream. Again, the finish of this is very similar to the LA Girl one, where it's a little bit creamy, dewy, skin-like, and it's not too matte, it's not too clingy. This you would really like irrespective of your skin type, just like the LA Girl one. This I feel like you would like if you have maybe normal to combination oily skin type. And then I just wanted to talk about the sponges quickly. The e.l.f. This is the sponge that I got. I feel like it's just like any other sponge. Like if you have your mask sponge, the color bar one, it's just very similar to that. I don't think you have to go ahead and spend on this one additionally. And also this one, I kind of like the shape of this. I absolutely love this. It is really nice if you want to blend out concealer underneath your eyes, if you want to set powder, and if you want to like blend in the nooks and crevices of your face. I think you would really like this sponge. It's really nice and soft. But is it anything out of the world? Not really. You can avoid the pink one. If you want to get this, you can, or if you just want to skip and use your normal regular sponge, you can still do so with that. And then another product from e.l.f. This one is the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation. I have not tried this out in a long time, and I got it recently just for this video. So this one is, I got this in the shade Almond. I feel like it's a decent match for me. The undertone is a little bit different. It's what I have on this side of my face, but once I blend it out, I don't think you can really make out. It looks pretty good. And this retails for 550 rupees. You can get it on discount on e.l.f. usually when they have flat discounts, or buy one get one. And it looks thick. Like when you pump this out, it looks thick, the consistency of this. So you would expect it to be like a medium high coverage kind of a foundation, but it has a very sheer coverage once you start to blend it on your face, and it looks very skin like. I like that. It is not too powdery, it's not too matte, it's not also extremely dewy. So it has a very nice skin like finish. It looks good. It's a nice foundation to use on a daily basis, like your everyday foundation, and it's not something that's going to let the oil seep through really fast. It's not something that makes you look extremely dry, not clinging onto your skin. So I really like this foundation. But if you have the, where's that product? Yeah, here it is. But if you have the Rene Face Base Foundation, I think you'd have a very, very similar finish with this. Okay, it's just that this one is a little bit more runny compared to that in terms of consistency, but once you blend it out, the finish, the coverage, everything is very, very similar. So if you have this, you don't really need the e.l.f. one. If you have the e.l.f. one, do not pick this one up. This is not super affordable. This one is for 750 rupees. Again, a lot pricier than the e.l.f. itself, but because I've talked about this quite a few times on my channel, and if you have already tried this out based off of my recommendation, it's just a heads up that you don't really have to go ahead and try the e.l.f. foundation. So this is very similar to that one, and the shade is of course very different. That one looks a lot more like something that matches my skin tone really well. This looks a little bit too pink and dark on my skin, but once I blend it again, it's okay because it's not a very pigmented product. You get good light medium coverage with both of this. You can build it to medium, but not anywhere higher than that. Like I have this spot on my face and everything, it's not covering it up because that is how the finish of this one is. That is how the coverage of this is, but both really similar kind of products. And then let's talk about concealer. Okay, they have a very popular concealer. This one is the e.l.f. Camo Concealer. This one is the 16-hour matte concealer. So this is said to be a dupe for the Tarte Shape Tape concealer, and I feel like it is quite similar to that, but I feel like my Tarte Shape Tape one has a tad bit more coverage, and also it's quite long lasting on my under eye area, whereas this one does fade away, especially from the inner corner of the eye. And I also feel like it kind of makes my under eye area look more cakey than the Tarte Shape Tape. But yeah, both of these are really drying concealers. Now if you feel like you don't want to spend this much on the concealer, I have this one in the shade Tan Sand and medium warm, but I feel like both of these do not match my skin tone to the dot, and I feel like they lack that kind of like yellow-ish tint to it that can conceal underneath my eyes. These are really nice brightening shades, but not exactly for concealing underneath my eyes. So I feel like a pretty similar match for that. And if you have this one, you don't really have to buy the e.l.f. concealer, is the Inside HD concealer. Trust me when I say this I feel like compares to a lot of concealers in my collection. This is a dupe for a lot of concealers, and I've also made a video about products that are dupes for multiple products, so you can check that video out. And this is very similar to a lot of high-end concealers as well as affordable concealers. I feel like it is quite drying. It is a little bit matte, especially if you have very dry under eye area. You wouldn't like this at all, but it blends really well. It's what I have on the side of my eye. I really like it. I like the coverage it gives. I like the finish it has, and for the price, again, it's a really good medium high coverage concealer. So yeah, I feel like these are comparable. And another one that you probably already own in your collection is the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear Concealer. The finish of this one is almost like exactly similar to the e.l.f. Camo Concealer. I feel like in fact this one has a tad bit more coverage as well, and a certain amount of like lasting power. It has like better lasting power. What do I mean by certain amount? Of course it has a certain amount of lasting power, but it has better lasting power than the e.l.f. concealer. It doesn't fade away just like that. It does fade away from the inner corner, but not in like fraction of seconds after I blend it. So this is again very similar to the e.l.f. concealer. So if you have the L'Oreal Infallible, you don't really need the e.l.f. Camo concealer. And then also I have their hydrating concealer, which again is not my favorite. I feel like a lot of products with e.l.f. for me is been hit or miss. This one is the e.l.f. hydrating camo concealer. This has a satin finish. I don't really like this at all, like the way it looks underneath my eye. I don't really like the lasting power of this. This has really good coverage, medium high coverage, but the finish of this one is not my favorite. So I feel like if you have the Mars Seal the Deal concealer or your LA Girl concealer, they are very similar in terms of finish, coverage and everything. I feel like these have better lasting power, a better price point as well, and they just look a lot better underneath the eyes. You can see from the demo as well. I feel like this looked a little bit more pigmented underneath my eyes compared to the e.l.f. concealer itself. So if you have this, you don't really need these concealers. So the next one we're going to be talking about is the e.l.f. Flawless Brightening Concealer. This is a nice brightening concealer. It is very lightweight. It has that serum-like finish, and it doesn't give you a great amount of coverage, but it's a good brightening concealer. Like if you already concealed your under eye area, if you wanted to brighten it up, you can use this. This has that kind of applicator, like, you know, you press it here and the product comes up. Very similar to the Maybelline Magic concealer. I think it was available a couple of years ago. I think it was discontinued. So if you have that concealer, it's very similar to that, where you remember that it didn't have great amount of coverage, right? Exactly like that. So I feel like if you don't really have that Maybelline concealer, you can try this one. This is a Swiss Beauty HD concealer pen. I have this one in the shade 06 Desert Suede, which is a little too warm, and it's like a bronzing shade for my skin tone, but I like the finish of this one. This again has a very lightweight finish. It has good medium coverage and it doesn't crease as much, and it has that very, like, you know, light finish. It's not extremely creamy and it's not extremely thin as well, but it settles really nice and beautiful underneath your eyes. It's not gonna crease, it's not gonna cake, but it does the job. So that's what this concealer pen does. It has a sort of different applicator like this one, where you have to twist it up right here, but getting the product out in these kind of applicators are a little bit hard. But again, if you wanted to try this out, you can try this. This one actually gives you a little bit more concealing effect as well, and also a little bit coverage compared to this. And so if you get it in a lighter shade, it works out like a good brightening concealer for you compared to this. So next up, this e.l.f. blush duo. I have this one in the shade White Peach. I feel like it's a really small pan. I know this is priced at 400 rupees and you can get it for around 250, but I feel like it's a really small pan, and the brushes actually don't fit in this quite well. The pigmentation is really nice, the way it blends on the skin is good, and the matte blush, even though it's kind of like a lighter shade, it's a nice peachy warm shade, does show up on my skin tone really well. And this highlighter is okay, like it has a little bit of a drier texture, but I really like this one over that. This is the Revolution Duo Blush and Highlighter in the variant Blush. They do have a couple of different variants, and again, this one seems like it's a little bit more pricey, like 499 rupees, but you can always find this on really good discount, especially on Myntra. I think this was for around 150 rupees during their end of recent sale. So this is a really good blush palette, and this shade of blush, it's a little different compared to that one. This is a little bit more warmer, and this is a little bit different. It is a little bit more of a nude shade. It has a little more of hints to it as well, but it's a beautiful shade of blush, and the formula is really good, and your blush brush actually fits into it pretty well as compared to that one. And the highlighter is very similar. These are very subtle, but they don't have that dry texture on your skin. When you apply it on your skin, it's not like this, there's like dryness and that flakiness emphasized on your face, and it's not emphasizing all those bumps a lot more because it's not that dry as compared to the e.l.f. one. So you can try this out instead of that. So this video is just don't buy this, buy that kind of a video, okay? Don't be offended like, okay, which one should we buy from e.l.f. then, because you're always telling don't buy anything from e.l.f. No, it's just that if you have these, you don't really have to buy e.l.f. because I feel like it's a little bit hyped. And next up, their putty blush is so popular because it's said to be, it like goes on really nice and like subtle matte looking on your face, but it's in a putty kind of a texture. Doesn't look too creamy, dewy, but gives you a nice matte finish. It's a very long wearing blush, I have to give it that. The finish is really nice. It does take a little bit of a time to blend if you're blending it with your fingers, but I use a brush all the time or a sponge. Okay, and I feel like these two could be like very good dupes for that one. This one is the e.l.f. Forever Nude blush. I have this one in the shade Forever Nude, right? Yeah, I think this is in the shade Forever Nude. This is the e.l.f. blush, and this has that very nice finish, exactly like the e.l.f. blush, where it's not too dewy on your skin, it's not too creamy, but it gives you that nice finish. And when you apply this on your face, a lot of a lot of people would ask you what blush you really have, and that's a very rare compliment at least I have received. Every single time I've applied this on my face, a lot of people have asked me like, what is that blush that I have? And I really like the shade of this one. It gives you that, again, that subtle like matte finish, good lasting power. You can see it doesn't have much dewiness on the skin as well. So this is a very similar blush. Or you can try the Swiss Beauty Cream and Tint blush. This one is in the shade Fruity Fig. I'm not talking about the shade as such, but the finish of this one is very similar to the e.l.f. one, where again in the pan you can't see that much of a dewiness. It's pretty comparatively matte, applies really well on your face without that dewy finish, and it looks nice and matte on your skin as well, very long wearing. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this matte thing is because a lot of people with oily skin might refrain from using cream blushes, thinking that most of them are very dewy, very like wet looking on your face and could make you look sweaty or oily very fast. But these blushes are not like that, be it the e.l.f. one, the EBA one, or the Swiss Beauty blush. So if you have dry skin, I'm not sure if you would like that. And then speaking of highlighter, this one is the e.l.f. Prismatic Highlighter. I have this one in the shade 24K Gold. I got this for free when I bought something from e.l.f. But this is how it looks like. It looks like it's an intense highlighter, but this is the color payoff that it has, and it's kind of a little bit subtle on your face. And I actually had to scrape off, I think, the top layer because I was not able to get it to show up. It was very rigid, like the way it's pressed is very hard. So I just like scratched out the top layer a little bit so that I could like at least swatch it and show you guys how it looks. So this is how it looks on the skin. A little bit dry, subtle, but a little bit dry looking on the skin. And again, not my favorite. I like highlighters, even if it is powder, not to look very dry and flaky and matte on the skin. So this is how it looks like, and I feel like we have a great alternative that has been in the market for ages. This one is the Maybelline Master Chrome Metallic Highlighter. This one is in the shade Molten Gold. Now this is very intense. You can use this with a very subtle hand and get it to show up like very lightly on your face, or apply it a little bit more intensely, especially if you wet your face, like spritz some makeup fixer and then apply this. This would look very intense. So you get the option of playing around with it, using it both ways, as compared to the e.l.f. one. I feel like I'm pretty sure you already own this. If you own this, you know what I'm going to mention next. And another one that I wanted to talk to you guys about, this used to be really popular back in the day, like when e.l.f. was all like back in the day. This one is the e.l.f. Baked Highlighter. This one is in the shade Moonlight Pearls, which is more like a whitish highlighter. And again, you have to scrape off the top layer to get it to show up. And this is how the color looks like. It's a little bit white looking on the skin. They do have a couple of different variants in this, but again, it's a baked highlighter. It looks pretty decent, like subtle on your face. Not my favorite because I have a lot of alternatives in the Indian market itself. This one is the Swiss Beauty Professional Eyeshadow. This one is in the shade 05, which is called Champagne Pearl, and this has that same finish without you having to scrape off anything. And it's again a baked formula, but it gives you that intense color payoff. The shade is not exactly similar. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the finish. You could of course get a more pearl looking eyeshadow, and that would give you the same effect as this highlighter is. Or you can use the Swiss Beauty Fusion Eyeshadow, which again is like a baked product, and this looks really nice and subtle for a powder highlighter, and it looks really nice on your skin. You don't really have to again wet your brush or do any of that. You don't really have to like scrape off anything. You can apply it with a little bit of an intense hand, or like keep it very light, and it doesn't look too much on your face. You can even keep this like really subtle. I know it is a powder highlighter, it is going to have shimmer particles in it, but it doesn't look too much. It is again not like a very matte looking highlighter. So these are the alternatives I have for that. And then for the e.l.f. Makeup Mist and Set. So I like the finish of this one. I don't really like the nozzle. It just like spritz the product everywhere on my face. It is kind of like little too watery for my liking, little too runny. It's nice. It gives a subtle glow to your skin. I like it. I like the finish. I'm not a very big fan of the scent. It smells bad. I'm not sure if mine is the only one that smells like that. It smells a little bit like glue. Okay, and an affordable alternative, the Mask Seal the Deal Makeup Fixer. A lot of people really like this makeup fixer. I had no idea about that, especially when I made my mask. So Mask Cosmetics products way better than high-end products. A lot of you guys mentioned that, girl, you didn't mention this makeup fixer. It is one of my favorite. It is the absolute best in the affordable market. So yes, this is really good. I really like the nozzle on this one. Surprisingly, actually, for a lot of, see, it's kind of fine and nice. It's not as messy as the e.l.f. one is. It's setting the makeup really well. It's not giving that dewy finish like the e.l.f. one does, but it's pretty good setting the makeup in place, taking off all of that powderiness. It's not making a mess. It's not too watery. It's not like a water rundown on your face. So pretty good makeup fixer. And the last one that we have is the e.l.f. Tinted Brow Gel. I have this one in the shade, I'm not sure of the shade, but if you wanted a similar brow gel, I have one from, my table is so crowded that I'm like always fishing for a product. I'm like, successful after like 5 minutes of search. So this one is the Blue Heaven Sculpt and Set Brow Gel, and this one is in the shade brown. This is really affordable and it does exactly the same thing. I feel like the way they look, the way they fill in your brows, they don't really have an intense pigmentation, so it's not like this would suffice if you have very sparse eyebrow hair. But for me, I have pretty thick eyebrow hair, and which looks a little messy as well because it's not groomed for the longest time. So this is enough for me to set my eyebrow hair in place and also to kind of like fill it in very subtly. So I use these two products. So if you have this, you don't really need this. If you have this, you don't have to get this one. So yeah, those were pretty much all the products I wanted to talk to you guys about. I know that e.l.f. is a really like raved after brand, especially right now. Like most of their products are doing rounds. A lot of people talk about it, and sometimes you might have FOMO that you didn't get it, and because a lot of people are talking about it, it's very hyped up, and also the price point could be a little too much for a lot of people, or maybe way out of your budget, or you sometimes like, okay, why did I spend so much on this one when the product was not even that good? So in that case, you can refer to this video, or if you wanted to still try out e.l.f., by all means you can. I'm not trying to like force you to not buy e.l.f. I'm just trying to give you affordable alternatives. I'm trying to give you better options, or I'm also trying to give you something that you already have in your collection so that you don't go ahead and buy like similar makeup. Avoid buying similar makeup. That is kind of like the point of this video. So let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if you want to watch more such videos like this one, or is it like an overdose of dupes video on my channel? Let me know. So I enjoy filming these dupes videos. I enjoy watching them as well. I find it to be quite helpful. So let me know if it's an overdose. Maybe we can keep it aside for a while, and let me know what other videos you'd like to watch in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, give this video a big thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so it's notified every time I upload a new video. And see you guys in my next one. Bye.